people, today I'm going to show you how this atrocious system of governance in Nigeria will continue impoverish 70% of, or even 80% of Nigeria. And I'm surprised that many people are not talking about it. And the one sad part of it is that this system is invariable. It doesn't change. Even the computer it gets updated. Computer system sometimes they update it or upgrade the system. But this system in Nigeria, this wicked system, that they set up in Nigeria, they don't update it. Even the house, if it stays for a long time, they will refurbish the house. But let me give you an example of house like need refurbishment in Nigeria. Is what they do is they paint it. They don't refurbish it. They just go and paint the house, paint something. The inside they are not refurbish nothing. No upgrade at all. They just paint the outside. That's what happens in Nigeria, and I'm surprised that many people are not talking about this system in Nigeria, this setup system in Nigeria, because when you look at the governance system, how the system is set in Nigeria, the power, the power, the power, they took power from people. Not only that they took power from people, they took even the natural resources from the origin of that resources. They took all the same from people, and because Nigeria have 3 tiers of governance. They have tier 1, which is the most powerful tier of governance, which is federal government. That's tier 1. And tier 2 is state government, which is another powerful system of governance. And they have tier 3, the lowest. And this lowest is the most important tier of governance, because this is where the resources come from. But the way the system is set up in Nigeria, they treat this, they put this one at the lowest as cog in the wheel. That's something that is just part of the system, is not very, very important, That's how they treat the local government. But let me break it down for you. And when you look at this the diagram I'm putting up on the board, you see you see the right diagram. You see that the federal government is on top, the tier 1, and tier 2 is state, and tier 3 is the local government. And local government is where the resources is coming from. Like say for oil, they have petroleum. And this is the land, this is the community that have this oil, and this is where the majority of the wealth in Nigeria for more than 50 years come from, the oil. And the way they say the system is that the federal government dictates what happens in the local government. And let me tell you how these resources move. I will tell you how the resources move. These natural resources move from local government to state to federal government. And when the federal government get money from these resources, they send it back again. They send some back to where the natural resources is coming from, instead of the opposite round, the opposite way. So what they do is like in a state, you have local government. They have, because if you come to state is made up of local governments. So state is just like a mini federal government, in a state, the structure there, the government structure there. But when you come to state, you break it down to local government, instead of local government where the people is, because that's where people come from. Everyone have, if you are born in Nigeria, you must have a local government you come from. That's definitely, you cannot say you are born, you don't have local government you're born for. And when you look at the cities in Nigeria, majority of people doesn't live in the cities. Like I think Lagos is about 10 million people living in Lagos, and this is or maybe let's say even 20 million, and let's say Kano is another 20 million people living there in that city. This is just 40. If you combine this biggest city, it's 40 million. And Nigeria is about 200 and something million, or close to 300 million. You see, majority of people doesn't live in these cities. So what's happened? The majority of people live in their local government, in their places, or let's say in their state, but they still have connection to their local government. But what's happened is that this local government is where the land is, and that's where the natural resources come from. So what they do, what the federal government do is that they give contract to people to go and tap the oil on the ground in local government. When the revenue comes in, when the federal government in that hierarchy, the federal government just the power just in one state, like they say capital of Nigeria, Abuja. That's where this local federal government is. But the way they say the system, this wicked system is that even the federal government will come to a state and have a road there. They will say this is federal government road. And the only reason why they are setting this road structures in state is just for them to be able to have control. Because now the federal government assumes some responsibilities that they shouldn't assume. You know what I mean? And they will tell you they need money to do that. So what happens is that they get this allocation to these oil companies, and in a day or in a month, the turnout, the revenue comes in. Let's say the federal government made from one local government, like where they have these oil wells, made like let's say $100 million in a month. You see, do you know how much the local government is gonna get in that in that 100 million that came from their land, and people live there. And if there is side effect of the land, it's going to affect people that live there more. But the federal government, because they set this atrocious system, the federal government now get the whole location and give the state, the oil producing state, 13% of that 100 million they made. I'm using just an analogy. That 30% of what they made from that oil they sold in a month, and they give to the state. How much did the state give the local government? You know what I mean? Now, something that is coming from somebody's land, local government land, they don't even see it. They have to, and the state owns that land as well, because the local government is part of that state, and the state will allow structure somewhere else to take the resources from their state and the local government and make money out of it, and just give them 13% and dispute other ones to various states that doesn't have this oil. And the and the local government doesn't even get much when this revenue comes in. So you get the money from the local government and state. The federal government comes in, get this money from the state, and turn around and give and tell the state, this is how much we're gonna give you. And the system is allowed to continue. And they tell me that this system, you're going anywhere with this system. This system of governance, you're not gonna get anywhere. So that's why Nigeria will still be third world country. Nobody can. As long as the system is allowed, the system, because it's supposed to be the opposite way. Because why is the federal government made themselves so big that now they need more money to function? That's what it is. But if you look at how America works and other places works, it's not. You can't make yourself so big in federal government. That it's supposed to be money, power and money is supposed to be with the people, not with the few hands, like we see with this kind of system. Now you have senators and people, House of Representatives. You see them, how much the federal government is paying them to make laws, and they don't even make anything. Because what they do is just wait for the resource allocation, the money to come in, and they share it. And in the right system, it's supposed to be like the federal government. You can make money through tax, through other means. You make money, not for you to come to somebody's place, take resources, and give the person back. And what are you doing with resources? Is your federal government. Nothing is functioning, because now you take people. You don't even have responsibility of anything. You know what I mean? By the end, what's the point of federal government in Nigeria? Nothing. You can say, like, why? What's the point? The point is to be wasteful, because the system they said is that the way the federal government structure is the way the state is. You come to state, you have same state representative. Why? You have all these federal government representatives. None of them does anything. They are just there as a waste, as waste. And that's why it's tragic because and sad as well because this system, nobody's talking about how do we change this system and make Nigeria function well. Because imagine if the local government have power, like if the local government even because what's happening is supposed to be like the local government, something or the state, something that in that state they're supposed to have like 70% of them and give the federal government 30% for them to function if they want it because the federal government doesn't belong to anyone, but states are accountable to people of their people. But the federal government, they're not accountable for anyone. You know what I mean? You are the one accountable for them. They see the wicked system they set up there and why things can never work. You know what I mean? Anyway, follow me for part 2 of this analysis. You know what I mean? Peace.